They did research, Havilah, and they talked about that 80% of the time when a child is sexually molested or sexually abducted and like kidnapped, the mother, if it's somebody that the family knows, the mother knows who it is.
She does.
She knows 80% of the time. But here's what she does: she undermines her own intuition.
Wow.
Undermines it. She'll say things like, I don't feel good. So the police will interview the mother and say, who do you not feel good about? And they'll find out from the mother. And so you need to obey those sensings. You need to say, I don't feel good about that person, and be able to say to your son, I don't know what it is, but I don't feel good.
It's been so awesome. I feel like I'm learning things as I'm sitting here. And, you know, it's really...
And I'm remembering things as I'm sitting here.
You know, what's interesting is I think the whole concept of celebrating their bodies, sometimes I think we're not sure how to protect them. Because that really does come out of fear. Okay, I don't want someone to touch them that's bad. I don't want someone to, you know, them to do something that they don't want to do or whatever it is. But I was thinking about this resource that I came across that I've really loved called the I Said No book. And it really talks about teaching kids to have inner flags, like inner triggers to know this is okay and this is not. Like in our home, we say to our boys, who can see your privates? And we say, you know, mom and dad and the doctor. And we're really clear about being aware.
Brothers?
Well, the brothers can too, and that's true. I think about that. I mean, let's be honest. Our boys dance around naked. We have a naked song. Like, there's just no way around it.
Our boys used to wear their underwear on their head and dance.
There's no way. And I don't want them to shut their bodies down. I don't want them to be embarrassed about their bodies. I want them to celebrate their bodies. And I don't want them to think that they're out of control with their bodies. They are in control, but I want to teach them how to steward that. Part of stewarding it is celebrating it. So anyway, all that to say, we really do go through that, and we'll go through that.
Okay, so repeat that resource.
It's called the I Said No. It's I Said No.
I Said No,
and it's a brilliant book.
And the story of me. Both of those are
me.
Invaluable resources that you guys need.
It's really, really helpful. I read it and thought, man, because it teaches them to, when they get a yellow flag, like someone will bribe them, like how do they deal with, hey, if you show me yours, I'll show you mine. Things that they get around, and then they don't know what to do. It teaches them all of that. Which I love, and what to do when they feel like something's not quite right, which is, like you said, the signal word is fantastic.
Yeah, and I actually want to like we want to, number one, we want to empower our children to say no.
We do.
Bottom line. But we also want to empower you to say no. You know, they did research, Havilah, and they talked about that 80% of the time when a child is sexually molested or sexually abducted and like kidnapped, the mother, if it's somebody that the family knows, the mother knows who it is.
She does.
She knows 80% of the time. But here's what she does: she undermines her own intuition. Undermines it. She'll say things like, I don't feel good. So the police will interview the mother and say, who do you not feel good about? And they'll find out from the mother. And so you need to obey those sensings. You need to say, I don't feel good about that person, and be able to say to your son, I don't know what it is, but I don't feel good. And God weaves something in the mother to protect. That's why it says, like a lioness, it says like a mother bear robbed of his cubs, like a lioness, I'll tear your heart out. God is saying, this is that protective mother thing. This is how he partners with mothers. If you have a bad feeling about a person, and I'm not talking about suspicion, I'm just saying kind of like it actually takes you by surprise, like, wait, where did that come from? Or there's enough indications that you are like, something's not healthy here. Maybe things are said. You need to obey that. We empower you to say no. We empower you to say no. We empower your child to say no. And give your kids tools that they can escape if we didn't save them from that, you know. But yeah, this is an important thing. Mommies, you have intuition. You need to listen to that.
You do. And you will usually sense things. I feel like the Holy Spirit gives us divine direction with our kids when something feels off. You know, sometimes we go, well, you know, we kind of panic.
We don't know why.
We don't know why. But really the goal is to realize that the Holy Spirit's going to show you, and you're going to go, something is just not quite right. You know, even with our kids, I can say, you know, what was in that show? Oh, it was fine. And, you know, I just feel like, and ask them a different way, you know, was there something in there that bothered you? And if you kind of wait, timing for, at least for boys, I have found, because I was in a girl home, we talked all the time. It was like, if something was wrong, I would just get you to talk until you tell me. I mean, that's just kind of how girls are. But for boys, you can't make them talk.
Now, you have to create environments for them to talk.
Yeah, there's a moment, and you have to jump on that moment. If you ignore that that moment, like, well, it's not a big deal, I'll get to them. And they want to tell you something, you know, at least for my boys, I've noticed, drop everything and really listen, because they will tell you something they've been waiting to say. And if you come back to them, oftentimes the boy, he's not ready. So for us, at least I've found a lot is timing is everything for a boy. Yeah. Specifically for a boy, it's big.
You know, and going back to that, you know, if you feel something that's not right with one of your kids.
Yeah.
You know, I remember one of my sons, he wasn't talking. He actually kind of withdrew. He kind of like pulled away.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling like there was a shadow. There was like a shadow on his countenance. And I would just see this shadow. And I said something to John. I said, I feel like, you know, this one particular son just has like a shadow on him.
Yeah.
And John was like, no, he's just, you know, whatever. And I began to pray. I was like, God, something's just not right. Something is just not right. And I said, God, I need you to bring it to light. I don't know what it is. I would talk to him and say, is everything okay? Yeah, everything's fine. Yeah, everything's fine.
Yeah.
Everything is fine. And I remember we had a computer breakdown. And we brought in a repairman who just happened to go to our church, who sat my husband and I down, and he said, you need to look at your history on your computer. And one of my son's friends had come over and opened up a pornography site on our computer.
Right.
And introduced my son to pornography. My son was experiencing at once the shame of what he'd seen, the fascination of what he'd seen, and the darkness of all this. And I remember that John said, I think it was this son. I said, no, I know which son it is.
You did.
I said, because I can see a shadow, because he can't look at me as his mother.
Yeah.
And there's sometimes when pornography gets introduced into boys, they can't look at their mom the same. I said, I know exactly which one it is. And so we kind of set up a trap, where we went to the one son and we said, we think it's this other son. And he was like, you know, and we already told the other son, and he just started crying, and he said, you know, it's me. Yeah. This is what happened. And he cried, and we just said, okay, listen, this has been brought to light so that it doesn't grow in the dark anymore. Yeah. And we as a family did communion. We kept it close. We did communion. We prayed over him. Yeah. You know, he talked about how that was driving certain things, where he was feeling really conflicted. He was feeling shame or whatever, and we got to pray over him. But you know, in this world right now, where pornography is so easily accessed.
Yeah,
I mean, I got up this morning on my Facebook and I had some pornography link in my thread I had to delete, you know.
All the time.
And it's ridiculous. So, you know, this is not something to be unaware of.
No.
And you were talking about calling it what it is.
Well, I think what's important is, you know, statistically, 7 out of 10 men look at pornography consistently, and 5 out of 10 women. And we're talking in the church. So this isn't like something that's like, oh, well, those people or whatever. And I know a lot of you are scared, like, what about pornography? And I have a son that I'm not sure. And I want to give you some tools. So, you know, one of the thoughts that one of the resources I have loved is called Good Picture, Bad Picture. And it's a book that was written that talks about what happens in your brain, and using your feeling brain versus your thinking brain, and really explaining to them what's happening, the rewards that they're experiencing when they see a picture. Because again, we are sexual beings. I mean, there is something about us that's
But there's
aroused.
certain things we're not supposed to see.
We're not supposed to see. But what I mean simply by, when we see a naked person, you know, initially we can't go, well, that's not what you're ever going to want. Well, yeah, they're going to want it, but not in a perverse way. They're going to want it in a pure way. So giving them understanding, like, hey, this is something that's triggering something in you, but this is something you're going to have to steward, and there's a lot of danger out there that's going to pervert what's really going on. So anyway, the Good Picture, Bad Picture book is fantastic, and it gives you some steps in the back of the book. But one of the main keys that I've loved about this book is that it really calls out pornography for what it is. So in our home, we will do things like, we're walking through the mall and we'll see a picture. We'll go by a certain store. You know, certain stores have lingerie. And, you know, initially we'll tell our boys, you know, we don't want you looking at it. We're not asking them to, like, hey, what's that? You know, and we're like, well, you know, like, I will warn our boys, we're about to walk by a store.
Yeah, I'll look this way.
I want you to know, like, ground check. And our boys I love them because they're innocent enough to go, okay, mom, and I didn't look. Did you look? And Hudson's looking, you know, and there's a lot of, like, you know, accountability and a lot of shaming that goes on with it. I'm kidding. But, you know, enough to, like, Hudson looked, you know. And so what we do is we warn them, but we also will tell them, listen, this is pornography. We're walking up towards pornography.
Yeah.
And at first I'm like, that's so intense. I have little boys. Why would I say that to them? These are my babies. But what we want to label things so that they can relax and go, oh, I know what that is. And it's not something that's enticed. I know what that is. And I'm not curious and confused. I go, I know what that is. It's coming this way. Another thing we do in our home is we set up parameters and protectors in our home. So we do have codes on all of our TVs. All of our computers have codes. And we do that because it's too easily accessed. It's not that we're calling all of our men in our home perverts and, well, you know, you can't help yourself.
You don't want them to see something that violates them. I mean, I know as women, we see things and it violates us. And it violates us, but it even violates them at a different level.
It does. And oftentimes what we see, and you'll find this with boys, oftentimes they stumbled upon it. Something was in front of them. They weren't ready. And so they didn't search it out initially. They were just educated by what they stumbled upon. So I would love it if our home didn't have a place where they stumbled upon it and that we could help them. So we have codes, our history, we have everything that's on there, and we do that consistently for our boys. And some people, you know, even with our boys, we don't just let them watch anything, or, you know, our music we play in our home is not sexually based music that's like, you know, having, you know, people, you know, you'll hear your kid. There was a song that was really popular that one of our kids was singing, and I didn't even think about it. It was like they had heard it at school, and then they kind of heard it in the mall, and pretty soon, as I listen to what they're saying, they're talking about, you know, being up on somebody and all, and I'm like, what is going on? And I didn't realize it at the time because it's just a popular song.
And it's actually breaking down these boundaries and barriers in their brain.
It is.
So that if they're ever in that situation, they'll be compromised.
I believe that. I believe that.
You guys don't think that your kids aren't hearing the lyrics. They are. They may not understand the application, but it'll be programmed into their brain for later.
And there are spirits on music. I mean, I do think that that's part of it. So all that to say, really, really good boundaries. You know, just because your friends' kids have phones doesn't mean you have to have it. They don't have to have data on their phones right now. You know, they don't. You don't have to. They don't have to. Like, I wouldn't put a TV in their room with a bunch of cable.
No.
You know, these are things that you go, well, everyone else is doing it. Well, that's fine, but
you're
that
not
doesn't mean
raising
that they're
citizens of this earth. You're raising ambassadors of heaven, and so you want to protect them.
I believe that.
You know, and Havilah, I want to say something, and I just want to say this directly. Good. You know, I don't know if you ever saw pornography growing up, but I'm going to tell you the very first time I was exposed to pornography was at my best friend's house and at her grandparents' house. And I want to say that I was 9 years old the first time I saw pornography. And then I also found it in my parents' house. And you may be saying, hey, we're adults, and we're going to protect our kids from that, but we're adults, and so we can have that. You know what? I'm going to tell you something. Just as music has a spirit, pornography has a spirit attached to it, and it has a calling voice, and it will call to your kids. I'm going to tell you what happened to me. Little girl, I was babysitting my brother. I walked into my parents' bedroom. I was allowed to sleep in their bed and watch TV in the room. It was like a really big deal to babysit, got my brother to bed. I was watching, and I remember feeling just, my eyes just kept going to one drawer, just to one drawer, to one drawer. I opened the drawer. It was all, you know, clothes, and I just felt like I needed to look under the pile of clothes on one drawer. And I reached under that pile, and I pulled out pornography, and it is not something that is neutral. No, it has a spirit attached to it. I looked at my parents like, thank God I'm so up. I was like, what the heck do you guys have got in your drawer? I mean, like, I called my parents out on it. I was like, what is this, Mom? What's wrong with you people? But the truth is, it has a calling voice.
It does.
Pornography isn't safe for you and dangerous for your kids. Pornography undermines the dignity of humans.
It does.
Dignity of intimacy. You won't be able to speak to purity in their life if you have pornography in their house. And you know, and yes, we sometimes, I mean, this has probably happened to you. We have taken movie suggestions from Christians and we watched the movie and then we're like, oh, Lord Jesus. And we like, afterwards we're like, boys, okay, that was surprising. We need to talk about that. And then we, you know, like, I remember like one movie, my husband like broke the CD. Like we had bought it, broke the CD, threw it away. This is not going to be in our house, it's an unclean thing. You know, but seriously, you guys, it's everywhere. It is. And so you can't hide it.
No.
But don't invite it into your home.
No.
Your home needs to be that haven of purity and you know, that intimacy and love and conversation, and no young man is going to connect. You know, if his dad is entertained by pornography, his mother is entertained by pornography, there will come a time where he'll say, it's not really wrong. It was just not right for me yet. And it will always undermine them. We just don't want that to happen.
We don't. And, you know, another thing I would say too is, you know, just because you go to the movies and there's a movie that you're in, that there's a scene that's inappropriate, you have every right to get up. Or the previews. You have the right to get up and leave. You know, sometimes we have these little, well, you know, we're at a party and this movie's being played, or we don't want to hurt, or we paid for this. Most movies you can walk out 50% and get your money back. So I just would like to, if you're like, what's the money thing? But, you know, for us, it's having those core values that, like, when this is in our environment, we get up, we leave, we turn it off. We don't just watch something because we're tired. We
cover our faces if we know it's just one scene.
Exactly. Yeah. And you can fast forward. And, you know, but even for my husband and I, we have to have a standard of purity in our marriage so that we can tell our kids with a clear conscience and before God, this is how we live our lives. Now, there are things that are adult that you are mature enough to go, you know what, we can fast forward this, where we know that we don't live with people or whatever it is, you know. But with our kids, if you're giving these internal messages of it's fine when you're an adult, you can partake in all of this, you're sending the wrong message, because we're followers of Christ. We want a purity and innocence in our hearts no matter how old we are. So that's very important.
And you just don't want that spirit to come in and torment your kids, because it will torment them. So
that's right.
Well, we still probably have more to talk about.
I know. Sorry, guys. It's a good topic.
Yeah, it is a huge topic. It is a huge topic, and I don't think that it gets talked about enough. And and it was a fear for a lot of these moms. So we're going to start addressing this and maybe go into some other things. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us. You know, pornography is something that I hope your kids never come across, but unfortunately, we live in a day and a time where we are being constantly inundated with images, whether it's a commercial you didn't expect. Maybe you're watching a clean program and then all of a sudden, commercial. Maybe it's you're out and there's Victoria's Secrets just out there and your boys are saying, what in the world is going on? Maybe it's a magazine cover. I don't know what it is, but you need to call pornography what it is. It is not art, it is not beautiful, it is something that is attacking them at their lowest basis level. And pornography is something that will taint their sexuality. I want you to create an environment where they can talk to you about it. You know, if somebody's showing them things that are making them feel uncomfortable or eliciting a response from them that they actually did not want to have, I want you to have these conversations with them. I need you to protect your house. I know that you have this idea that, you know, you can hide something and your kids aren't going to find it. But as I said in the lesson, pornography has a calling voice. It will call to your children and they will find it, whether it's visual or whether it's, you know, written, they're going to find it. So you don't want to do that. You need to eliminate these things from your home so that you can actually really honor your children's commitment to purity. Another thing is, keep the computers where you can see that. There's absolutely no reason why your kids need to have computers up alone in their rooms. And if they have friends over that you're not comfortable with, don't let them take that computer out of the room. Keep it in the kitchen, keep it in a central family area, keep it where you can see it. Put the safeguards on the computer. The pornographers are just incredibly strategic. They will do pop-ups on things that children will just be normally searching for school projects. They have the pornography linked to that. Invest in a good protection system for your children. You will never regret it. And tell your kids if they ever see anything by accident or maybe on purpose that they didn't want to see, that they can always come to you and that you will pray over them. So be proactive when it comes to pornography. Don't think that pornography is normal. Don't think that it is healthy. Make sure you have these protections in place for your children.